same situations that Lena has mentioned. So this is something that chronologically repeats. So something that every person goes through in our modern society. And people have already mentioned that the reason and cause of the conflict and the essence of the conflict is not the fact that these women or any person in general, is not the fact that every person hears these thoughts, orders. The essence of the conflict is that he voices these thoughts, he makes his choice. And what is in the essence of his choice? The desire to have power. This is what lies in the essence. So I put the person's attention to that. So I stress this or that you didn't do what I asked, or you did something wrong. What is it? It's domination. It's dominating in its pure form. Of whom over whom? Of people who are close to each other over other people who are close to them. And we're not even talking about professional relationships. This is something that happens in the families, where people are related by blood. And you know, this is something that is she didn't do what I asked, she didn't do how I said it. And what's most amazing for me, as for a person who has a family, and actually until now I have a question, I've had a question that I've wanted to ask everyone, all our participants, for example. So when women ask something from men, I never could understand what is the urgency of this request. Why should you stop doing anything or everything that you're doing? Doesn't matter what the boyfriend or the husband or the man or the son does. It doesn't really matter what he does, but he must put everything aside and do this request immediately. Just like in the example about snow, cleaning snow. So you have to stop doing what you're doing and go clean the snow. So there is another example from life. If the man doesn't agree, well, what do I mean by not agree? He doesn't stop doing what he does and does what he's requested. So what does the woman do in this case? She goes and does it herself. So what is happening here?
Yes, exactly. This is quite really good point. Nothing else of a dictatorship and proving who's head of a house. And I was remembering myself such situations when my husband and children are busy and I enter the room and saying that it's urgent and you need to do it exactly now. Okay, they say that I will do it in 10, 30 minutes, but no, the anger explodes inside of you, aggression explodes. How come? I'm just asked, they should do it immediately. And only later on, I was trying to understand why I have such a reaction. No one refuses. We are all normal people. They are ready to support and help. And suddenly, out of a sudden, such a reaction, that is exactly what we don't control. You need to learn it. You need to know and understand it. And just stop doing it. And when we understand what is the first step towards love, this is exactly the first step, not to let our beast to behave this way, so these dogs wouldn't have a right to even speak and comment in this way. This will be exactly the first step of love to prevent such situations. I'm sorry, we didn't comment on this point that we transmit these thoughts, like in this story with Vareniks. We can just not transmit these thoughts, because does it really matter to how many plates to put these dumplings? Husband is nearby, he's ready to help you. You can enjoy this moment, but you need to decide to how many plates you should put food, and spoil mood for yourself, for husband, because everyone feels this another different atmosphere. And what is really interesting, if we ask this woman later on, we will talk to her, she understands herself. when we already don't feel these emotions, we understand the absurdity of these demands. But exactly in this moment, we don't control it because we don't learn and don't understand. So yes, this is really vivid story.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. And when we were commenting these two first stories at the beginning of our conference, it becomes clear that it's selfishness that is behind all that, behind power, because when the person focuses on I said it, I need it, then what follows next? Certain actions follow next, and thank you for mentioning this. So these thoughts start in the head, the person makes the choice and starts to broadcast these thoughts to the people around him and to his loved ones. Okay, let's move on. We have more stories, and it would be nice to hear those stories and analyze them. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for such typical or classical manifestations of power in family relationships. There are a lot of typical examples, but I would like to draw your attention to the following. So, the story with Vareniki. As a result, the woman, despite the fact that she sort of agreed to use two plates, it was still like secret action. So still behind her husband's back, she would do those things like she wanted. So these examples are the examples of secret action, sort of, and these examples are all over the place. I would like to give another example, and many people will recognize them. So when we have a certain plan in our head, so we want something, we have planned something, and we expect other people to do the things in the way we have planned. But as a result, things happen quite differently, almost all the time. The people around us do something differently. And in our head, we see irritation arise, and we see some complaints, and we start saying, no, you're doing everything not in the right way, you're doing some things to hurt me or something to cock block me. But the thing is that the person has planned something, he has not voiced it, and he actually expects people to do those things that he has a plan in his head. And when you appear in such a situation, you ask a simple question: how could I have known that you have already planned that? And what do you see in response? Resentment. We've lived together for so many years. I've dedicated my whole life to you. You could have guessed what I wanted. You could have understood just by my slightest move what I need. And when you look at this situation from the side, you understand how absurd the situation is. But unfortunately, you come across these situations quite often in our lives. So this was the example that I wanted to share, and I think that many people will recognize it, will recognize themselves in this example. Okay, Jenna, thank you so much. Guys, before we proceed to other stories, we have another very good fragment from videos with the participation of Igor Mikhailovich Danilov, so let's try to watch it. Thank you. Let's say there is
Скажем
true
так,
love.
существует
It is love
истинная
in the
любовь.
spiritual
Это
world. It is
любовь в мире
love
духовном.
which is
Это любовь,
boundless or
которая
divine love.
бескрайня или божественная любовь.
There are no gender differences in it. There is nothing in it. It is the unity of people.
Это единение.
It is indeed the unity of people in love. Why? Because in that world, there is nothing except happiness and love. There are no negative emotions there. Well, it's for those who neither understand nor know. Why are there no negative emotions? Because they cannot exist there. There are no emotions there at all. There is happiness, there is love there. This is what the world is, because this is the world of God. Whereas for people, consciousness always tries to copy. And so it inserts the concept of love into a framework of affection and responsibility. But again, what is behind is affection, responsibility, and everything else, right? Manipulation, comfort, hormones, and all the rest. Well, really? If we take and consider this situation without bias, if we consider these amorous states, we will come to an understanding of relationships between two people. And they don't have love as such in the higher understanding. They always watch over each other, they always try to manipulate one another, they always want something from each other. And what is there everywhere? There's first and foremost selfishness. And the other person is detached. And even when they say that we kind of feel each other and so on, eventually, of course, they feel the system mixes up, consciousness of the couple start working almost like of a single person due to the protracted side-by-side stay, due to the fact that people stay next to each other. And they can even sit and be silent, just like the spiritual people. They do, but do they feel each other, right? Well, it's possible to feel, but no words are needed because there's a single language. But it's when people, so to say, have escaped from embrace of consciousness a little bit, but consciousness copies just in the same way. When people have got used to each other to such an extent that they live in a single little world, especially old people. They start simultaneously inserting identical remarks. Why? Because consciousness is already almost one for the two. There are already two viewers with little more actors on the stage. The system is simply saving on them. But can this be called love? No, because it means always suffering. And here, know that everywhere, in various novels and movies, in all mass media, which force people to follow patterns and which encode consciousness, everywhere, love is described as suffering, tragedy, something else. You know, something that is filled with some emotions, worries. And now let's consider what we know about emotions, about suffering, and about everything else. This is something that forces us to invest attention, that is literally to pay for someone else's scenes, or pay emptiness, put it simply. Or, speaking in the language of economics, it is bad business. So it turns out that people waste their spiritual powers on empty things. Yet, can people coexist, say, married couples? And how it can be otherwise if we have such a lifestyle? If we've abandoned the communal order? There's already such an individual one. People like it, they live so. Well, for God's sake, let them live. If there is such an order, so let it be. Elementary respect and understanding for each other already a setup of family happiness. But when there is at least someone in the family who is more or less spiritually free, he understands the other person. He understands what the septon field is telling his spouse right now, and so on. But if he is imbued with respect and let's say he feels comfortable, again, comfortable and convenient with this person, he will never do anything bad to that person and he will help that person. He's in three-dimensionality. Certain manipulations will always take place anyway. It is impossible to force a person to follow the spiritual path or vice versa. This is his or her choice. However, when people live together in three-dimensionality, it still leads to certain manipulation of each other, right? That is, someone must wash the floor, someone must go shopping, and so on. Well, there are tried consciousness snaps, and here tried consciousness snaps into action, wanting, not wanting, bargaining. I will do that, he will do this, and the like, elementary agreements with elementary manipulation. So, don't go making a tragedy out of it. But to call these things love, well, say it's sort of possible, but you should have quotation marks. What kind of love? Earthly love or spiritual love? But people often get confused about that. That's the problem.
this really vivid fragment, and we will analyze another hot topic right now, which transforms the life of modern families into total hell, with screams, with fights. This is topic of preparation lessons with school-age children. How it usually happens. Parents come home after work in the evening. The lessons are not had done, or it's not completely done. Parents remind children that they should start their lessons. Of course, children have more interesting and important things to do, and parents lose the patience and becomes angry, scream, sometimes with abuse, and they force a child to sit down and do their homework. The child is crying. He does to start to make this homework. He's offended, he's upset, and he feels helplessness and confrontation to the stronger adult. How a parent feels in this moment? Do they feel the joy of victory over the child? As it turns out, no. So many times at consultations, mother told me such words. I feel myself a monster after this. I don't want to scream at my child. I don't want to abuse him. I don't want to see the tears in his eyes. But why again and again do I scream at him like a crazy? And another phrase follows. Please help me to do so the child would does his homework myself. I will translate it. Could you please give me a more effective tool to manipulate my child? Parents, come to consultations in order not to figure out why do we react in this way to unwillingness for children to learn to do his homework. Who will react in me? What can I do as a mother, as a father? No, parents come for a tool for manipulating a child, to make from him an obedient person who will do all his parents' requirements. But from where we have these patterns, they dictated, but the same thought which corresponds to the image of a good mother or a good father. Because after all, if I'm a good mother, my child should be good as well. He should be successful in school. He should have only good grades, and so I would brag to my friends and relatives what a wonderful child I have. Accordingly, what a wonderful mother I am, in order to amuse my parental pride. I am familiar to the situation since my daughter is in the 2nd grade, and I also had such evenings with such hot forcing a child to do their homework. And just one day, instead of putting my anger to a child, I took a notebook and started to write down my thoughts. How dare this? How dare she tells me what should I do? I'm stronger. I'm telling you, and you should go and do your thing. And the direct order comes into my head: force her, slap her. And exactly, parents implement these thoughts in action, forcing children and demand for them to do the requirements. And I understood that in such a way, how I treat my child, consciousness doesn't suggest to relate to anyone else. I wrote down such thoughts that my daughter belongs to me. I give birth to her. It means that I can do with her whatever I want. I know better what she needs and what is not. I know better what is good for her and what is not. So the relation to a child is towards a property, not to a living being. but like something which should obedient to me, how dictator in my head requires so, and only when a person feels himself as a spiritual being, as a personality, only then he understands that a child is also a spiritual being. It's a personality which came into this world in order to gain its own experience, in order to make the choice and to learn wiseness, to learn to take responsibility for your actions. And when parents dictate how and what he should do and when, so the person doesn't learn to take responsibility. He formed, let's say, learned helplessness. He doesn't know how to take responsibility on himself in future. And one day, when I realized that my person is the same person, equal to me, not higher, not lower, not worse or better, but equal, when I came home, I didn't want to remind my child about homework. I just wanted to spend this evening with my daughter. We spent just a wonderful time. We was talking secrets to each other. We was making jokes and laughed. We played different games. And then I went to a kitchen to finish some business. And when I came to the room, I noticed that my child sits herself and does her homework without screaming from my side. And then I just asked my daughter, should I check the mistakes in your homework? She said, no, I don't want you to find the mistakes. I want you so you would just love me and support me, even when I do it with the mistakes and I bring home bad grades. So why parents need the children? Really, just in order to rule and demand, so they would do it in the way how we want it, or to be, or rather, the dictator in our head. No, parents need in order to show love themselves, to show this example to people, to create the atmosphere of love and care, and happiness and joy in home, real comfort of what we were talking at the beginning of the program, and show this example to our children, because everyone knows that the child will behave in the way how a parent behave, but not how they tell us. So I have such a story. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natasha, for saying these things. Well, it has already been mentioned in our times, people are locked up, they're truly locked up, at their homes, at their apartments, and people have faced something that they haven't come across. And some people were trying to escape it. What I mean is that they have faced their dual nature. And neither psychology nor other sciences wanted to study this dual nature. And the result that the global community received, of course, does not make people happy. Because what did it mean? It shocked people. And what do we see? We see that a person becomes the object of manifestation, of ruthless manifestation of power. Power from whom? The parent. I'd just like to carry on with this topic and give you example from my life. I would like to share with you some observations that I have witnessed in my life, and I hope that these observations will be useful for our today's discussion. And I will tell you how really relationships are created with children. And I will speak about my relationships with my children in my family. So I will speak about the devices, gadgets. So of course, we live in the time of technological progress, and it's very difficult to sort of live without these gadgets. And the way school curriculum is, people and everyone needs to use these gadgets, and also children like to use gadgets in their free time. So our family has very strict agreements that children have specific time that they can have for these devices. It doesn't matter what exactly they do in these gadgets, but they have this time to use these devices. So we have come to this agreement. So after the workday or after a school day, basically one of the first questions that my children ask me is this: Dad, well, it's actually strange to ask this question, because you have the right. Like, the question is, can I use them now? And what do I do? Yes, of course, you can use the gadgets, but let's go and check whether you have tidied up your room, whether you have made your bed. Is everything okay as far as your homework goes? Did you do this? Did you do that? So basically, it's not really difficult for me to find a lot of tasks for children, which my children have to do. They really have to do in order to gain access to these devices. And what do children do? They do these things. They do the task that I ask them, because this tool is so wonderful. And this tool is wonderful because the parent can manipulate their children. And what is happening is terrible. I'm sorry to say it, but that's like this for me. And I noticed this, I noticed myself do this. And then I realized, look, I'm a person who is aware of this dual nature. He knows and he accepts that every human being, including the child, has the right of choice, the freedom of choice, what to do when. But at the same time, I'm using this situation to my advantage. But what's most surprising, and I can also say even repugnant, I'm basically breaking my previous agreements. Should you really be surprised when when your children behave towards you, towards other children in the same way? They use the same tools. They understand that there is a dominating position, and they would be able to manipulate another person in this position. They will try to manifest power, ruthless power. And then we worry, we visit a psychologist, specialist, and say, you know, I don't know why my child has grown up like this. Probably there's something wrong at school, maybe other school children, or maybe someone taught him in the street, but we don't see, we don't want to see what is right in front of us. We don't want to see that, and we shift this responsibility onto other people's shoulders, and we make this choice consciously. So really, in our today's discussion, it is important to understand that every person is free to make his or her choice, to do what he or she wants to do. And respecting this freedom of choice is one of the fundamental aspects for building healthy and good relationships.
Yes, Sasha, thank you. And you have talked that I know about the double's nature of personality, but I still do. And most part of our people, they don't even think about who in them is against this right of a child to choose. It is this is the manifestation of power. It is very wild. Does love can be wild? Who? No, who can be wild? Only the beast. And this beast is our consciousness. And all that you have talked about, that we take away our responsibility to someone else, it's all from our consciousness. We have these ideas, these thoughts, it's theirs fault. for what these thoughts are coming to us. So we cannot be aware who is in us do this, who pay our attention to the thoughts, who give these thoughts to us. And so we have what we have, the society full of cruelty, starting from the family. And one more important aspect, we do not understand what is our double nature, but we also don't know what is the truly choice is. It's not a question what dress to choose or what game to play. No, it's a question. This is just a situation, and the truly choice is that every moment we make a choice between love and fear, between good and evil. And if we think about love, living good, and then fear, death, and evil, and every moment we do make a choice between these, and this is much more serious. It's not only the situation that happens and gone. No, it is happening every second. We make a choose between life and death, and this is what we have to explain to our children, and it is much more important. And when we do any violence against our children, I have talked about that, and we talked about that at many programs. Any manipulation, any super control, this is a violence against a child. And when we forget that the most important is taking care of the child, as to take care of a child as a spiritual creature, and the personality of the child can grow and develop only in love and respect. Only in this way the personality can grow. You know, I've asked a question to children, to small children, and not to children of any age, and the question was, what do you need more in family? What are you struggling for? And I've asked different children, from children that have all except love, and children from poor families. And children answered, I want my mom and dad stop arguing, and I want to feel love, that I'm loved. And you know what's the problem? They don't tell this to their parents, and their parents have no idea because of what their children are struggling and what do they need, and this is very important.
Да, спасибо.
Yes, thank you.
I would like to add, because I work with children and teenagers, Natasha and Sasha had spoke about some aspects of manifestation of paternal authority, yeah? And how to make the question of parents I want to can be more expanded. I want him to go to the institute, not to the college. I want him to go to music school. I want him to be friends with these guys and not even come close to those. I'm sorry, the picture is gone. I want him to help me around the house. And this list goes on until the infinity. And the most important is that this attitude is parental love and care, and that this makes children happy. And now I would like to show on this screen a picture that a 5-year-old girl drew. So please have a look. This is the picture of 15-year-old girl that is surrendered such kind of love and care from the parents. It said that I want to be alone. They didn't know. So this is the words in the picture. And the parents, they don't understand what they're doing. They think that they make better for their children. And these children sit in the chair of psychologists and cry. And they say it doesn't matter for them what profession to choose, where to go to a college or to institute. It doesn't matter. The only idea for them is to go to another city quickly and to leave their parents. And parents often write some small notes to their children, but they are not full of words of love. These messages are like field flowers, take trash away, and so on. And children doesn't want either first or second. These children, they are not parents think that children, they are not oriented in our world, but to psychologists, people, their often clients are 30, 40, 50 years old people, and their parents say that it's too early for you to get married. You will spend money for the reconstruction of your apartment, not for the traveling, and so on. And when these people say, I'm mom, dad, I'm a grown up, I can take care of myself. And parents tell to these grown-up children, we don't care how old you are, we know better how you to live. So what is the kind of love from which people are struggling? It's not a joy to communicate with your parents anymore. It's just an idea to get away from their power. And today we have talked about that we are motivated by the thoughts in our head. We don't know about our doubles personality. We don't understand the real nature of our thoughts. We just hear thoughts in our heads and act to the person in that way that we hear in these thoughts. We don't see an equal personality in the child. We just hear to the beast that wants power.
Lena, thank you very much. You've just said, and I was listening to you and recalled my own story. You said, why we are saying kind words so rarely. I recall the period when my daughter was 12 years old, and I was telling over and over again what she's supposed to do in order to become better, and she raised her eyes at me and said, Mom, do you love me? I was like dumbstruck. Oh, yes, I surely love you, daughter. Mom, am I good? Oh, sure you are, but I was, I was kind of scared of this look, because I persuaded her that she's so kind, she's so delicate, she's so attentive. Everyone knows this, and I know it better than everyone else. And then she asked me, why do you not say this? And I didn't find anything to tell her at that time, because everyone knows that, and I knew that. So only I, as mother, can tell you something which will be even better. But then I thought, why really? We are so rarely saying kind words, the words of love to our relatives, to our close people, to other people. I noticed that many times how people shared, how difficult it is for us to pronounce these words, and there is such a typical explanation in our head. Well, it's better to confirm it with deeds, confirm my attitude with deeds. But what about bad attitude? Why do we confirm bad attitude to people with the flow of bad words? For example, you wanted to give just one remark, but you recall everything that a person done for over 5 years. Why? I was thinking about it many times, and I didn't find any answer in psychology, in talking with my colleagues. And in the video, one of the videos, Igor Mikhailovich just answered this question. He said that it's very important to take away the tongue of your body from the demon and force demons to say words of love. It's very important not to be silent. It's very important to say good, kind words. Only when I started studying this dual nature of a human, I understood that consciousness, the beast, controls the body and controls our tongue, controls what we say. And we easily transmit all these messages, but we, real selves, our personality pays for this with our attention, with our vital energy, but we can stop it at any moment, and we can force our tongue to say kind words. For this, we need to have voice, and we have an opportunity of verbal communication with each other. This is very important as well.
And actually, we have this consciousness for this reason. We have consciousness not to spread evil, but to serve good. Okay, thank you so much for these stories. Let's move on. And let's move on to the next area of relationships. So I mean professional area, and let's hear what we have there.
Yes, I would like to share what takes place in the professional plane, in the professional field. I think that all medical professionals, most of them, know such states as being a duty. And lately, I noticed about myself that before the duty, I kind of have bad mood, I have irritation, everything makes me angry, and even I have insomnia. So I finally got interested, I got tired of this state, and I decided to figure out what is really happening at this point and what causes such conditions, such states. Knowing that thoughts are not mine, they're coming from a side, it's not what I wanted. I decided to write down all the thoughts which are rolling in my head, and I ascertained that over 2 days before the duty, I have persistent bombing of thoughts and memories related to negative, previous negative duties, negative experience, which was either with myself or with my colleagues. And I know this 100 times that not always this will be the same as pictures in my head show me, but nevertheless, all these 2 days, I'm in total slavery of these negative thoughts, which provoke and revive all this bunch of negative conditions, negative states which cause such exhausted feelings, such, and with such a prepared, in brackets, condition, I go for a duty at work. And of course, in such a state, I don't have any desire to talk with anyone and do anything. And once I wrote down all these thoughts, once I read them, I just voice them right now. It's just, I was terrified. The thoughts were as follows. Okay, it's against duty. I'm so tired of this. I'm sick of it. It's the same as the same over again. They will call me. They will irritate me. And so many people are coming. Oh, I apologize for being fast. There are so many people, and why the working day is not enough for them? Why should they all do this at night? Why they transfer their calls to night hours and weekends? They make me sick. And once I wrote this all down, I was terrified, really terrified. I cannot think like this. When I was choosing my profession, I was guided by the fact that I really wanted to help people. I sat down and thought, what or who inside me permits such inhumane expressions? What is the kind of a beast it is that wants points and forces me to be in negativity all the time. And why all these points, all these moments that force me to get rid of the situation as soon as possible, so that nobody bothers me, irritates me. And if something goes wrong, I become irritated, and I really want to that somebody does something I wanted or as I needed. Why this beast dominates me at such moments and forces me to dominate over other people who right now feel helplessness and really need normal, adequate, humane relation, attitude and professional help. The most interesting thing is that when I talk to my colleagues, it turned out that they have just the same states all the time. And just the same thoughts which come to me, they come to their heads as well. So it's such an impression that at a certain point, all of them have the same record which is played in their heads, and it proves again that thoughts is not what we order ourselves. We hear thoughts and they are communicated to us from a side, from the external, but it only depends on us whether we listen to these thoughts and perform what they say. And this, this helper in our head, this commentator, and many people say this, they perceive him as themselves. This consciousness, a person does not separate himself from consciousness. That's why we see that we have such relationships between people, not only in professional field. And I understood for myself that I don't want to be guided by such prompter and don't want to listen to them and pay attention.
Lots of thanks to you, Ola, that you shared such a story, and lots of thanks for your questions. So, who in me, where do these thoughts come to me from? So, to me, a doctor, such inhumane questions about my patients. So, actually, when you hear such questions from a doctor with the highest education, with a scientific degree, when a doctor knows everything perfectly about a human's body, about veins or muscles, but a doctor, the same doctor, does not know about the true nature of a human. So really, what affects my mood? What affects my emotional state? And how is it all happening? I'm not just, kidding right now, because, I would say that actually psychiatrists are not taught as the doctors, so the same way about the true human nature. And I also actually got a scientific degree in psychiatry, but I did not know answers to these questions. So if we do not control our thoughts, and it is already evident that we are unable to control our thoughts. So who's behind our errors, right? Who's behind Irina's questions, Irina's thoughts of a doctor? Why aren't we taught that? And another bright point that you mentioned, thoughts that we choose to listen to, they do affect our mood, they do affect our emotional state, and any person knows that when he is in emotions, he's experiencing emotions, especially negative ones, so they are really affecting our reaction, our analysis, the ability to be critical about that. So usually, right, everyone knows that it is better to calm down and then to make a decision. And also, we know that it is not good to suppress the emotions, because emotions, they influence all the concentration of attention and other important processes as well. So the question arises, okay, how many patients does this doctor have, or just not how many patients, but how is he kind of leading his practice, right? So what really trap did we get to, and maybe we should ponder over that. So I believe that we have to treat any education and higher education very seriously in means of studying a human nature, because we are studying the body, right? But we do not know exactly how a person is, so to say, constructed. So what kind of information do we have? It does not matter how much information we accept, read, if we do not know the true nature just of us, then it won't do, that information won't do any good if we do not study ourselves. So that is why, Olga, lots of thanks to you for your courageous experience and for your confession, because, you know, I'm really very happy today that there are professionals among doctors and among other experts who are able to analyze and to make confessions like that. And another point is that how long really does it an action of a person take, right? Like you said, okay, you took just so how long do people really have to, how does this action last? So just a few minutes, right? That somebody might have offended you or something, but the recollections about that action, they keep on going on in our head for months and weeks, for years even. So right, so they come back to us. So well, do we really like just recollecting all those negative thoughts? That's what I think is important to understand. Thanks.
We, as a specialist, not being taught to study ourselves, who we really are. We have such a story. I had it at work. We and colleagues had a conversation with colleague psychologists, and one of the employees shared how the evening which happened in her family, where all members quarreled among themselves. First, husband did have arguments with the son, then her colleague herself scolded her son, and then she had fight with her husband, and eventually the youngest member of the family, also from a mother and from older brother, also, but we should mention that the smallest is only 2 years old, so it's just a usual evening, which happens really often. And another, my colleague, she was watching with envy, and even when she was watching the family at the large family on some celebration, when everyone talked to each other peacefully, well, everyone happy, she was sharing that I wanted the same for us for a real long time, and eventually I understood that it doesn't happen in the real life, it's only in film. And another colleague also agreed with her that it doesn't happen in real life, because when there is no clash of interest, it just means that they're not interested in each other. If they have nothing to talk about, that they have nothing to quarrel about. And I rejected their assumptions that there are such families who can live peacefully, who can absolutely calmly resolve all issues that arise and create at home such an atmosphere and harmony which is shown in film. But they told me that no, it doesn't exist. If there are such a relationship in the family, it means that this emotionally people who have zero emotion, that they're disabled people, vegetables, they not do something already for themselves, not only for others. And to be honest, I had nothing to answer because I was shocked, and it was really sad that people who work in psychology, mental health, they don't even think that we can live with each other peacefully, in harmony with each other. That doesn't have this inner harmony, first of all, because when you in harmony with yourself, you don't want to quarrel with others because you just feel happy, you feel good, and you want to share this happiness with others. He will not defend any selfish aspirations from consciousness. He won't prove something to someone or manifest some power. He's just happy and he shares this happiness with others. But happiness and power, it's completely opposite concepts. They don't stand next to each other. And what is interesting, that this setting that conflicts are normal and natural for people is being implemented to specialists even in training, in learning process. I remember that we had subject in institute, conflictology. It was a whole separate discipline where we were taught that conflicts, it's natural, absolutely normal for human beings. That without conflicts, human relationship just cannot develop. If during conflict people found common language and found common ground, it means that their relationship finds another level, higher level of development. And if people doesn't have a common language and don't find common solution, that they also always stuck in these conflicts, and their life just leads to constant conflicts with each other. But what we are being taught in universities, to be humans or to be animals, what do we choose? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Actually, after every meeting that we have, I am more and more impressed at what specialists in this area are taught. Nothing good.
It doesn't teach to love, that's I know for sure.
So, even if a specialist, when he talks to his or her colleagues, says that it is not possible to live without conflicts, if people don't have any conflicts, then that means that they are indifferent to each other. So the question is, what advice will this person give when he comes to him? So he will give, yes, he will give the piece of advice from a position of the conflict. And this is what I'm afraid to think of. What pieces of advice will people get from these specialists? And isn't that terrible? Isn't it the sunset of humanity? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Actually, the information that you have mentioned is shocking.
I want to add that I'm also really amazed how they taught us in the institute, and when I started to work, I noticed that psychologists very often use and practice such expression. If you don't have conflicts, check if you have pulse. So it is so much monstrous that they make such an understanding in our heads that a person can't live without conflicts.
Well, actually, this topic is quite important in psychology, and the thing is that these specialists should probably be good at understanding what is the basis, the foundation for building human relationships. And the starting point is actually very important in psychological counseling, the topic of human relationships. And the question is, what does modern psychology speak of? It speaks that our relationships are created either on the basis of sympathy or antipathy, or how people close to each other, or on sex, on responsibility. And paradoxically, relationships are also built on how we can manipulate each other, on how we can control each other, or on how we can make that another person do what we want them to do. And when you hear this recommendation, how it is better to for a man or woman to rule over the other person, or how it is better to manipulate the other person, the question comes, where does all of this have the ability to have honest relationship between people? Where is love in this situation? And what is love in general? And here, love is often substituted with sex, with sympathy, with trusting relationships, and the essence, the true essence of love is forgotten, what it is. People are not taught to love each other. People are not taught what love is. And this is a serious issue of modern psychology, which basically brings this psychology to a deadlock.
Right, the psychology asserts that's really, so it asserts that all our problems and misfortunes are because we do not know how to communicate with each other correctly. So that is why, but how can it be for thousands of years we've been learning how to communicate with each other? So maybe we should put another question, maybe all our misfortunes are because that we have forgotten how to feel each other?
That's a good question. Yes, it's a good question. I don't think we've lost the ability. Actually, we are teaching, we are learning. And probably this is a wonderful thing that really people are tired. People are tired of having this format of relationships. And people understand, not at the level of thoughts, not at the level of words, they understand that things can be different. And even without consulting specialists, there are a lot of people who feel on the inside that something is wrong. They feel it and they succeed. They succeed in building healthy, good relationships, good families. And the people who are watching us right now can think that, you know, things are really bad and terrible. Yes, guys, things are bad and terrible, but at the same time, there are things that there are some good things as well. And fortunately, there are many of such good examples. If I may, I would like to get back to the examples from our everyday life. And I would like to share some, well, thoughts on such a thing as shopping. So it happens very often when a man and a woman go shopping together. And what happens in this situation? For the man, going shopping means to buy something, but for the woman, shopping becomes an entire process. And when they go shopping together, it can turn into an entire theatrical performance. And it could result in conflict, irritation, scandals. But what's really happening? What does the man hear in his head? What thoughts? She is inadequate, she's just wasting my time, she makes no sense, she's just mocking me, and so on. So basically all the negative things is what he hears. And what does it lead to? Of course, it doesn't lead to anything good. It leads to conflict, to scandals, to irritation. But the question is, how can you avoid these conflicts in a simple way? So one way out is this. For example, a woman can go shopping like preliminary. She has chosen what she wants to buy, and they can go together and buy those things that she had previously chosen. And I think that this can be a way out of the situation. There are no conflicts and everyone should be pleased. But I had a question. If a woman goes to a store and she has picked an item for herself, the question is, why am I going there? Why am I going shopping with her? What is the real purpose? And I realized that it is not the desire to buy a thing for a woman, and I my woman. So basically, I was observing thoughts that have nothing to do to the current situation. So this is pridefulness, pride, selfishness, egoism. But there are some other situations, and many people can recognize them. For example, a woman goes to the store and the man waits for her in the car. Or she's selecting some items and he's just paying. And if you look at shopping in general, then you can say that this is an entire ritual. Some kind of a theatrical performance, the ritual of control and power of family members over each other. And here it doesn't really matter who it is, the woman or the man, because consciousness suggests to both of them, suggests to use this deadly pattern of power. And consciousness pushes people towards it, but you need to say no to it. It's actually quite easy, but why are we dancing along these thoughts? Why are we doing what the thoughts suggest? Thank you, Zhenya, for touching upon this topic. Thing is that all people are buying things all the time. All people wear clothes. And the first thing that I wanted to comment on, and of course I would like to continue with this example, maybe with some different observations that actually confirm the process. This is a really good example. You said the ritual process of shopping. It actually is aimed at manifestation of, again, power, unfortunately. And quite often, when people come to psychologists about problems in relationships, a lot of specialists focus on the difference between the male and female psyche. And in Western European culture, there's a lot of literature about this. There are popular authors, popular speakers who teach, who say how you should treat the man, how you should treat the woman, like what are the subtle things there. In other words, there's a lot of information about that, about relationships and so on. And of course, you can read all that and make up your mind, but of course, there are a lot of things, so it is very easy to get confused. But what's the important thing to understand? When the person has clearly understood for himself, when he makes just little effort in order to understand his or her dual nature, to identify this duality, then he understands that actually there is no difference between the male or the female consciousness. There are programs. There is a program with clear algorithms, with a clear written algorithm of action, and it works in the same way, both for the man and the woman. And getting back to the example of shopping, for me, shopping, like I saw it in the following way, that this is like the fun time, the amazing time for the woman. She walks, she goes, selects everything that she needs. The man follows her, and without remembering those things that you have already mentioned, when the man is the sponsor, when he selects the things for the woman. And if you look at the situation from a side, if you look at the situation, like for example in malls and so on, I see men as slaves, and the task of the slaves is to go from one place to another and to carry items. I don't see these men being happy when they spend this time together shopping. And actually, I always try to avoid going shopping together with my spouse, because for me it's difficult to go shopping. It requires so much effort to go shopping together, because You know, this manifestation of power in these small things can be felt by any person. The question is, why do conflicts and quarrels arise? Because every person feels when another person tries to manipulate him, when someone is trying to manipulate over that person. And today we have looked into those points that contribute to to giving rise to conflicts, to creating tyrants within family. We have looked into these questions in a detailed manner, and we have already mentioned that there is a clear and simple way to get rid of all of this. And before we proceed to conclusions, we would like to watch another fragment from the video with the participation of Igor Mikhailovich Danilov, and we continue. There is no power in love. In love, there is love, my friends.
In love, there is love, my friends. And this is true. This is what warms you from within. How can you have power over someone you love? No way you can. You can only love. While the power is from Shaitan. While the devil, yes, that one has a hierarchy. So why have we built a hierarchy of power on the words of the prophets, on the greatest truth? Why? A simple question. Yes, because we do not love God, and because we are afraid of Satan. That's the problem.
Right, so let us come to the conclusions. So actually, most of people, we have this, you know, when that relationship with another person depends on the way how other people treat me, right? So the way other people treat me, so I treat them. And so everyone and everything is focused on how to change others. And today we have heard that relationships with people are, first of all, it's about my relationship to another person, and this attitude to another person, it depends on me and not on another person. So, and this is the most important thing is that what should we focus on just in our relationships with another person. We can just listen or just based on the comments in our head, which we hear, right, in the form of the thoughts. And actually, when we are guided by evaluative thoughts, our consciousness, this piece, right, builds relationships with other people. And such kind of relationships, they are always destructive. And we can be just trusting our feelings. Feelings, these are exactly what distinguishes a person from an animal. And we should learn to feel just how to treat another person. That is important. Because actually there is one main feeling, this is love. And today we have, in all our stories, we have felt that, and we know that it is really, well, it really feels bad without love. And when you feel love, it feels just great. And we come to the question, to the first question at the beginning of our live broadcast. What is the purpose of the relationships? Why should we build them? Do you really have to find the one who will be dominated by me or whom I can rule. So we've got to just understand this. And if we come out of the point that my attitude towards another person is the most important, and the relationship with a person, it is all gathered on my just attitude. And my work on myself, it is to be learning, to be constantly learning, to be calm, to be loving. And it is, persistent process, because why should I stop learning how to love or how to be happy? Just ask this question, ask yourself this question. So what kind of skills will I have if I start studying this or that information? Will it make me happy? Or at the main point of the relationship with another person is to learn to love, and together to make something good, only together. What we lack in our relationships is love and kindness. We've got to learn love and kindness, because just if you compare, right, if you're looking to acquire some skills, right, or if you're looking for a place or extra classes for your kid, right, so you're always looking for a professional expert to for teaching that, right, but we learn that skill, or our child learns that skill, and the skills, they only help to survive in this world. But love is the most important, and without which love is impossible. So without love, everything is meaningless. And there is no better way and no better teacher to learn us to love as God. So, before you start learning God, then you even do not know what kind of love you should learn, towards what you should strive. That is why I'm always repeating that in order to recognize God, you can do it only with the language of love. God does not hear our complaints or any our conflicts. God only feels our gratitude and love. These are the purest feelings. And isn't it the most perfect learning? When I tried to understand that, I've heard such expressions as eternal love and eternal life, right? So there is something behind these words, right? And I have not found better examples, but like Jesus' example or Buddha's example, because they served as examples of love, of pure love. And I've seen lots of atheists at the deathbed of their kids. I was observing just very close person who was dying, who was passing away, and those atheists, they were praying. They were addressing the only source, the only love, who would be able to protect and to save. They were praying to that force who will never betray. So actually, we do know this source, this pure source of love, right? So why aren't we learning, and why shouldn't we start to learn this feeling, this pure feeling? So that is why I can say that God is the best teacher who is teaching us to love. And that is why I say that it's very important to strive towards recognizing these signs, to love, to learn to love each other, and to live God, to love God. If we are talking about true love, that love which makes a person or human, true human. And there is also one more point. I often see thoughts, such thoughts from people like, well, our society can change if each of their people changes. But I say that we should not pay attention to the changes in another person, but we should pay attention to the changes in ourselves. So it is always about making this choice. What do you support, or which do you support? Distraction or creation, love or aggression. So if a person does not support evil in himself, first of all, then he won't be for any evil in the world. So that is why the most common way of kind of supporting evil is inaction and keeping silent. It's like, oh, I can do nothing just by me, what can I do? But actually, there are many of us. There are about 8 billion of people around the world. So when we learn how to come to the contact with God, to those pure feelings, and if we learn to feel this just non-stop during our day, and only then we live in happiness, and only a person himself, he can divert his attention from that, only him. Or like, just take this example. Can a mother who loves her kid, can she be indifferent about towards the fact that every day thousands of kids die because of the lack of water? So can this mother be feeling indifferent towards this fact? Of course not. And if we do nothing to protect all the children, to protect not just these children, but all the children in the world, so we're not doing anything to protect our kids. Because if I took made this decision to protect my kids, then it's natural that I would be ready to protect all the kids around me. And our kids, right? They are growing up right now, but what awaits them? What kind of world awaits them? They might be killed, or they might get stuck with the drugs. So, should we be really worrying about our society and the future of our kids? We should be just considering these questions, because in this consumerist format of society, we're constantly experiencing fear. And if a person is experiencing fear, then how can he be able to love anyone? But if a person is in love, is in support, and he feels safe, and if a person just, he feels love, and he lives safely in this world, then of course you can show this positive example and pass it to your children. And we should be all thinking about living in the same single world family. We do have a chance to build the highest society on our planet. This is such a society of people who have learned to love, who have learned to feel, because feeling just is about love, and it's about life. And I believe that today we've just figured these questions out very exactly. Lots of thanks.
We started our today's conference from the fact that humanity now is at a landmark, fateful position. And all the things that specialists come across today, all the things that ordinary people come across today in their homes, in the street, at work, and in places where we usually go, where we have to interact with other people, then I can say that conclusions are, I could say, sad, because the format of our society has reached a dead end. consumption has started to consume itself. And when we speak about consumption, we don't speak economy or production or purchase of items. We speak about selfishness, about power, about personal benefit, about the ruthless power, how it is manifested presently everywhere. When people who love each other forget about the simple principles of humanity, when relatives start to dominate over each other for the benefit of their animal natures, and they try to carry on this power in their lives, carry it further, and they use every opportunity to insult, to mock, to lie every person that stands in their way. Please tell me, isn't that a secret today that in the next years, for the entire humanity and not to a specific country or people, we will have to face serious global climatic changes and challenges all over the planet. And it is no secret that a lot of people will have to abandon their homes. And when these people come to the new place, when these people come to the threshold of your home, not even to the home inside, when they come to the threshold of homes to other people in whom the beast dominates, the people who are dominated by the desire to have power over each other, the question is, will we be able to find the common language? Will we be able to help each other based on these principles? I think that probably each of us has a rough idea of what this can lead to. And here, like, you don't need to have a good imagination, you just need to have a look at what's happening in our families. You can just have a look at how our relationships are. Is there a hierarchy, or maybe love is present in your families? And you acknowledge the equality of another person, and you are ready to sacrifice something important for you for the convenience and comfort of another person. And today, we were focusing on different points from videos with the participation of Igor Mikhailovich Danilov. We were really careful about selecting these fragments so that as many people as possible could understand one main thing: love, guys. Only in love can we survive. Only in love will we be able to survive. Only when we are united by love and one common goal. And this goal, this common goal, is the creative society. This is how it sounds today. This is when we will be able to survive. And this is when we will be able to give our children a beautiful, a human future on our planet. And at this point, every person who's watching this broadcast can start to love right now. Because it is not difficult, it is actually easy. Love is inherent in every person in the world. To unite for love, for life, is possible for everyone, and this choice is not difficult. Just think about this. Think for yourself, what would you like? And think, are you tired or not from that cruelness and that discomfort that is heavily present in our lives, in our heads? To love is easy. Thank you so much for being with us. See you soon, and watch another fragment. Thank you guys, everyone. Thank you.
Today, understanding the importance of unity between all us, I would like to talk about how we can achieve this unity and how we, all people, can simply learn and respect and understand each other.
Well, there are actually two ways. There are always two ways. Even for solving this task that you have just mentioned, there are also two ways. One way is long and thorny. It is quite difficult. And again, it is related to the opposition to the system itself, to the devil himself, to the struggle with oneself. Yet, there is a very simple and nigh way. It is actually nigh for everyone. However, few people want to take this path. You know, what way is that? To stop serving the Satan and to start serving God. That's all. Indeed, to take this path and to stop listening to the demon in your head, because every person knows what is good and what is bad. When he acts badly, he knows that he is doing a bad thing. But why does he do this bad thing? Because of pridefulness and inner spite, meaning an emotion. After all this inner dirt doesn't come from personality, it comes precisely from consciousness, from this internal dictator, from the one who rules people's destinies, in fact, when they transfer power over themselves to him. Isn't that so? Yet why transfer power over oneself to a soulless beast who wants to eat all the time, right? Absolutely. So what's the point? Let's say, why feed a bottomless pit? You'll never feed it, and you'll never be able to fill it up. This is what it is, this demon that is sitting in each of us. So to stop listening to him and start serving God and start loving each other, respecting each other. Let's say not to yield to emotions that demons are sending down to you, my friend. And that's it. And everything will begin to level out. Let's have a look. So we've discussed many times already about the creative society, that all people wanted it, everyone strives for it. But actually, all people aspire and want to live in an ideal society, this Eden, where the soul sings, where it is joyful, where everyone is united. That's what people want. They aspire to that. Not even a creative society, I'll repeat once again, but an ideal society. This is the house we all came out of. That's how we lived for 6,000 years. Isn't that so? It is.
Yes,
Later,
it is.
everything changed. And we understand that this is wrong. We understand that this is bad. Everyone understands this. But we keep doing it. Therefore, I'm telling you that there are two ways. And the second way, the long one, is to start convincing each other to fight evil, to stumble, to fall, to get up, but to continue to live again under the dictation of this demon. And to cry that, oh, I'm not strong enough, I can't, how is this possible? It's impossible. In other words, to continue to exist in the same ways as now. But at least to apply a little bit, let's say, some methods of confrontation against this. Then slowly, somewhere you see, you stop yourself a little bit at some place, somewhere you do something good, and something will gradually start changing. Such a long way, which we friends don't really have time for. Actually, no matter how you put it. But all these fortune tellers that you've mentioned, as well as all religions, again, it all has a dual nature, but everyone is talking about our times. That we are lucky we live in this time, and the future depends on us. And it depends on each of us whether the future will be or not. On whose side we stand, that's what will be. This is what we implement. Isn't that right? It is. And the problem is that people don't understand this responsibility, the responsibility that has fallen upon them.
Igor Mikhailovich, and then of every video you say words, love each other.
That's the most important point.
And these words inspired us to dedicate today's video to this because we understand the importance of these words and the implementation of the tasks that all of humanity facing is.
Humanity is facing one task now, the easiest one, to survive. And again, we can survive only when we begin to love each other. Everything is very simple, and it's true.